In today's video, I'm going to share with you how I structure my day of the performance. What do I do, when do I do it, and how do I do it? Stay on and find out. What's up everyone, Evgeny Genchev here with another episode of Sweet Struggle. On here I share my knowledge and experience both as a performer and as a teacher to help you on your musical journey. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you do and ring that bell icon so that you never miss a video. Before I share my routine, let me point out the obvious. On here I share what I've personally tested multiple times and works for me. It is important to not see this as the only truth, but rather experiment with it and see whether it works for you. Maybe you can incorporate some of it, maybe even the whole thing, or maybe none of it. Try it out and see what feels right and what doesn't. And when you eventually establish your own routine, then make sure you keep some flexibility to it, because we cannot always control all the conditions and the circumstances on the day of the performance. There we are. It all starts from the night before the concert. Make sure you go to bed relatively early and have a good night's sleep. Hopefully you won't be too stressed or anxious before the performance, so you'll be able to sleep well. Personally, I start the day as I would any other day, with yoga and meditation. If you've never done it before though, don't do it for the very first time on the day of a concert. I would then have a nice lightish breakfast. So far so good. Then I would sit at the piano and I would try to play through the entire program. That works very well when playing a recital, but if you're playing with orchestra, then you need to make sure that you fit it to the agenda of the day. When would you have the general rehearsal, any publicity engagements, etc. So playing through my program, I make sure that I play it in a slow to medium tempo. I like it medium rare. Making sure that everything is in place. When I do that, I try to be focused on every single note, to be conscious and aware of everything. What I'm saying here is that just because you're not playing in tempo doesn't mean that you should be sitting at the piano daydreaming. Quite the opposite. You shouldn't leave any holes in your attention, because during the performance these may come back and hit you real hard. So pay attention. I try not to put too much emotion into the playthrough, as I prefer to conserve it for the performance. If you go full on during this practice, you might feel worn out by the time you actually need to perform and project for an audience. And if you're wondering, but how do I then rehearse for the intensity of the performance if I don't do that? This is really not something that you should be doing on the day of the performance. It's really not a last minute thing. And if you're someone who always plays to the max and you can keep it up, then good for you. Remember, what I'm sharing with you is just my personal experience, my personal recipe. At the end of the day, you need to experiment and see what is true for you. After I have played through everything, I would have lunch, and if time allows it, I would go for a short nap. Of course, if you're having a lunchtime concert though, this doesn't really work, does it? As I said, this is my formula from which you can take whichever element fits you and the circumstances. After the nap, normally there is just enough time to shower, rehearse, and then finally go and perform. Once you go on stage though, what do? There are a bunch of things that you shouldn't be doing that you probably are, but if you want me to discuss this, then drop a comment down below and I'll make a whole video specifically for that. As a basic guideline though, remember that the performance starts as soon as you step on the stage, not when you start to play. As soon as people can see you, you're already setting the scene for the performance. So if you have a choice, which you obviously do, how would you like that to go? How do you envision this? What are you trying to achieve? Take your time and have a think about it. But again, I remind you, this doesn't take a long time, but should be done in advance. Otherwise, everything becomes overwhelming 5 minutes before stage time. Now you have already sat on the piano stool and don't need to adjust it for 5 minutes before starting. Unless that's pre-planned, of course. There are many different ways in which you can start the piece, and it all depends on what kind of atmosphere you would like to create. What would set the scene in the best way? Then put your hands at the keyboard and play. That's all from me for today, and I hope that you found this helpful and you can take something out of it. If you've got any questions or you would like me to talk more about specific aspects of my preparation, then let me know down in the comments. Meanwhile, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And if you haven't subscribed, this is already the end of the video. I don't know what you're waiting for. You might as well do it. And while you're at it, make sure you ring that bell icon so you get notified every time I post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.